Have you ever witnessed the life and death journey of thousands of wildebeests? Not only do they cross the raging river, but they also have to face fearsome predators, such as lions, leopards, and ambushing crocodiles. This is not just a migration, but a fierce battle between life and death. Follow the magical journey of wild Africa with natural animals. 8,000. Wildebeest migration in the African wilderness. Every year in the grasslands of Africa. Always happens. It's one of nature's greatest wonders. Migration season of wildebeest. Every year a herd of wildebeest, leaving the dry grasslands, to find grass and water, one of the necessary factors for their existence, in another land, and then back to where it started. As a law of nature, the distance they traveled on their journey, about 3,200 kilometers long, along with the birth of the 250,000 wildebeest, as well as dying some others. On a journey full of pain, the wildebeest are in no small danger, death. But nothing can make them change, and those migrations, it's been going on for thousands of years. Right across the equator, across Finzu, the vast grasslands, with an area about 26,000 square kilometers, adjacent to Lake Victoria, it's where wildebeest live. Now, this land looks pretty peaceful, but then it was born a rage. On its northern and southern borders are volcanic cliffs. The volcanoes that Kir used to erupt to create grasslands in flat green bottom. It's called the Organ Garden. It's for herbivores. It's called the Serengeti. There is still a volcano in this land. It's called Doinyo Lengai. Sometimes it still works. Spray out some ash as a gentle reminder about the terrible destruction, and then create grasslands. The land of the Serengeti, it is the origin of the first antelope in the neck. They're moving west, to the edge of the Ngorongoro crater. It then moves across the south bank of the Grumeti River. The wildebeest is a special creature in shape. It seems to be an assembly of nature, with the countless shapes of other creatures. To create this animal, wildebeest head, he looks no different than a tragic actor. It was so fun on stage. They're very charming creatures, but not ostentatious, and also known as the clown on the meadows. May. It's time to tell the wildebeest that soon enough, they're going to make a massive migration. The rainy season is over. It's also the breeding season for wildebeest. And so the males are always checking their speed. Let's try each other on the grass. The male wildebeest with all their might. We have to fight to hold territory, on which there are females waiting to mate. It marks its boundaries by passing the horns through the grass, as a warning to other males. Usually, the battles of wildebeest, it's not very stressful, because sometimes they need to stop fighting to feel the enormous predators, like a leopard or a lion. In June, the wildebeest is no longer hyperactive. It's clearly divided into groups, with unclear boundaries. Each such group consists of several offspring, under the command of a male. To get this command position, a man must always show himself, by uncompromising battles. And all of that, not out of purpose, is to make the star for the wildebeest to be born next year. They are the children of the best fathers. For 6 months, the wildebeest need to store fat in the next migration kit, for the fights and for the mating. When the children are ready, on the grasslands, wildebeest are prey to leopards and lions. But because they're so numerous, so that doesn't affect our existence. But it also helps them get rid of the weak ones in the flock. Under the scorching sun of Africa, the grass began to wither, and the water began to dry. Slaves of water and grass, I need to find another place in the north. Upon departure, these wildebeest are pretty messy. Towards the edge of the plain, they start slowly, because there's still something to eat. There's still a couple of water holes to drink, before disappearing in the dry season, under the summer sun. When the ground begins to water out, more than 1 million have left the Serengeti to start a real journey north, spreading clouds of dust all over the meadow. These wildebeest go this whole kilometer, to another kilometer, then through the shrubs. In the north, more rainfall, so the pastures are also greener. And when we find a living land, the bovine spirits paused. And then we've marked new boundaries, before continuing on our way. During this time, wildebeest herd with more than 300,000. 90% of children are pregnant. All the hoofed animals in Africa, we can live together, without affecting each other's lives, because their needs are different. Giraffes with long necks, snatching glue leaves on high, without paying attention to the spikes around them. The buffaloes eat the grass. Kazan antelope like to graze on low grass. And the zebras are gnawing through the hard grass with their healthy teeth. Especially the wildebeest. Because they're so numerous, there aren't many options. They eat it all. And so they're forced to keep moving forward, leaving behind empty patches of land. Rotate the land. For the lion, predators in separate territories, maybe as wide as 390 square kilometers, a land traditionally belonging to the offspring, but kept by the males. As long as the grass-fed animals stay, their lives are comfortable, but the herbivores have left. The lion's food supply is empty, and that's the verdict for the cubs. In fact, there were about 50. The lions died of hunger during this time. They are tied to their territory. The lions just have to sit. Look at the herd of wildebeest, passing and out of sight in regret. By July, the wildebeest, we've reached the western edge of the Sudan Gate. They're approaching the shores of the lake, the rivers, that are getting out of their hands every day. Every 2 days 1x0 wildebeest must drink water at the river, and the crocodiles took this opportunity to grab some of the animals. The struggle between fear and thirst is over, and the victory is about to burn. Chen's push from behind the copper. It causes some of them to wade straight into the water and into the crocodile's ambush. The crocodile's teeth has a good effect on clamping, but they don't know how to chew. So he rips up his prey and swallows it straight into his stomach. But it's a cheap price. For the lives of the children, the rest. The migration of wildebeest to provide bountiful food for the pelicans. When the wildebeest are crowded across shallow puddles of water, will make the puddles muddy. It makes the fish unable to breathe and must rise up and become a good prey for the peasant. Wildebeest herd by herd heading north. And wherever you go, they also leave their mark on the ground. Seems to be on the migration trail. All the other animals, they're also caught up in the patterns that they create. August, the rivers dry up in the storm. High mountains filled with water, and it's flowing to prevent the migration of wildebeest. They are extremely talented swimmers, but the power of the water was so strong that it swept them away one by one. One by one, some are old and weak, with the children buried in the mud by the river, and they'll never rise again. Most of the wildebeest herd across the river over there. Only a few of them are impossible. River upper wing, it's nothing more than a brutal massacre. But in this one migration, there's 1 million wildebeest. As many children will be born, that the loss of individuals is negligible. Too few numbers to stay on a journey. It's a long process for the fish and the vultures to fry to the bone. In September, the grass in the fields becomes yellow, withered under the summer sun, and then ignited. This is the time when the Serengeti is in flames, and there's no year where the grass doesn't burn. Although the fires does not damage the body of the wildebeest, but the grass they need is hard to find. And fire smoke, it's like the night falling in the day. For wildebeest, fertile plains, now, it's nothing more than a tasteless earthenware bowl. Due to difficulties in the dry season, the animals fall into difficulty and want. There's no other choice. More than 1 million wildebeest continue on their way, leaving visible traces on the burning grasslands. Early, the antelope can go all the way to the Mara River and the steep slopes, which is the northern boundary of Eden Gate. It is 320 kilometers from the destination of the journey. They've traveled so fast through thousands of winding kilometers to get to the land that they're hoping for lush grass. As they go, the vultures also fly, quietly observe and wait. Vultures often nest on the cliffs. And when the hot air rises high in the early morning, they'll fly over the heads of the animals. Maybe a whole day, a vulture just came home, over a distance of 300 kilometers, when a wildebeest collapses along the way. It's going to be a feast for vultures and other scavengers. Even as soon as the vultures finish the party, there's still someone else enjoying the corpse. That's the meadow spider, a relative with the spider biting his clothes, laying eggs right inside the horn. And inside that dark horn, a life cycle has taken place. The eggs hatch into caterpillars. The caterpillar pierces deep into the horn, take advantage of the remaining nutrients, and then it molts into a spider. That's outside the cup horn. There's a new life happening. But that's just what happens in dead bodies. Leave it behind. And the antelope itself has moved forward. Hundreds of kilometers. In the north, the antelope find more abundant food. But they also have to confront new predators. Young antelope often have to die under hunting, the prey of the jaguars, and a leopard kills a lot of antelope at the same time, and then take it up to the tree to eat. October, the rains come and the earth is reborn, bringing hope to the wildebeest and many other animals. In the south, the pastures are beginning to flourish. Signal, it's a good time for the animals to return. It's raining too much in the north right now. That's caused a lot of land to be flooded, and wildebeest can't hang around anymore because they're at risk of foot disease. When you go back to the wildebeest, do not follow the crowded flock, as when departing, it splits in rows and covers the ground. When you've come a long way, their speed becomes slower. They regain the weight they've lost in a long, dry season. One of the diseases often seen in the migration of wildebeest, it's a revolving disease. That's the main cause. It's because the FLIs put maggots in its nose. Normally, these maggots will be thrown to the ground with a strong breath. But sometimes one goes up into the brain, has upset the victim's balance. Then the spirit, unfortunately, Yang will have to turn around until he died of exhaustion. When an animal is sick, it's unusual behaviors that will give attention to these delicate predators, like hyenas or wild dogs, and they often end the lives of their victims before it collapses from illness. But beside the wildebeest that fell on the way home, they are the ones who were born and raised in a land where there are many cultivated enemies. Flood. They only have a few minutes to get up and run. After 5 minutes it can stand, and in about 15 minutes, he can run as fast as his mother. For 1 year, there's more than 250,000 wildebeest born. And there's still a long way to go before the end of the journey. As well as adults. Kids, I was in a lot of danger on the way back. On the way home, the wildebeest have to cross the wide lakes. And there were unexpected things that happened. On the shore of the lake, the crowding of the flock has created unprecedented chaos, led to a lot of lost wildebeest. The mothers, when they discovered their child, he decided to swim around looking for me. And the swims through, swimming out of place like that all the time. The children are looking for you. The mothers are looking for you. They're swimming past each other somewhere in the middle of the lake. Swimming across the lake. Those that are already weak are getting weaker and drop to the bottom of the lake. A lavish pilgrimage. It's probably just wildebeest or reindeer can do it. In the crossing of the lake, there's 1,500 antelope. I lay dead in the shallow water. And some like that run wild through the shrubs and become prey for the good animals. But it's a natural law, because without some amount of nin, duong lost, during the migration season, they'll spread across the grasslands. Because of that crowd, the bodies of dead antelope in the lake become food, abundant habitat for the birds, flamingos, and fish. Finally, the wildebeest herd, back to where it started in April. And it won't be long, a new reckless parade will begin again. But right now, the animals are living in peace. On the green pastures, in the Serengeti, the fossils are intact, has determined that over 2 million years ago, wildebeest already exists, and has not stopped doing migrations to the north. During those 2 million years, the wildebeest hasn't changed, and they don't need to change. For them, copper is a way to survive. and the death of some individuals from predators. Due to illness or natural disasters, it's a necessary purification for the species. Year after year after year, the migrations keep going and bring about good success for wildebeest head bugs, just like the clowns on the meadows. Fast forward 2 million years of history,